Hello and welcome for the final time this week to Mustard Sport. This is Pundits Predict, where we get off the fence to predict those Canaries Premier League fortunes. That trip to Stoke on Sunday rapidly approaching. Joining me in the studio for the final time, I've got Norwich City season ticket holder in the Barclay, Lower Barclay, Ben Walden, and our Mustard TV pundit for the week. I've extended it, Rob, you're still in. Rob Setchell. Right then, Norwich City travel to Stoke on Sunday. That win in midweek in the League Cup against Watford could possibly prove to be a turning point, but it will need Norwich City to deliver at the weekend at the Britannia Stadium, a place where Norwich are yet to taste success. They've also struggled to score goals, Norwich, as we've discussed and is well documented. Ben, are you worried about that? Is that the primary issue at the moment, scoring goals?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure, but I think that generally speaking, teams that score goals tend to win football matches.
Certainly helps.
Certainly teams that don't score goals don't. And I happen to know that we've scored more than once on 11 occasions in 43 Premier League games under Chris Hughton now. So
great stat. Good stat work.
Yeah, well, I've got to say that it'd be really good if we scored some goals against Stoke, but I don't necessarily see us scoring a lot.
Well, it's only been a 1-0 defeat on the last two visits, so that bodes well. They've been terrible games as well, in truth. But Tony Pulis is no longer Stoke City manager. Now, I had Mark Hughes down to struggle at Stoke, but they've actually made a very good start to the season, haven't they, Rob?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I had Stoke down as strugglers this year under Hughes, but yeah, they've been good. I think they've done a bit of shrewd business. I think that Arnautovic that they brought in looks like he's a bit of a wily campaigner. I think he's been around, and he's, I think Stoke will do all right. Having seen them early season, obviously at home they're going to be good. And I know we say Pulis is gone, but there is still, we're not talking about a completely different Stoke here. Yeah, it's a little bit more, pleasing on the eye, but it's still, we're not playing beach, but we're not, it's not Barcelona, is it?
No, not quite. More short passes, probably just as many flying tackles, I'd imagine, under Mark Hughes. Norwich City have won twice in the Premier League away from home. I believe that's right, under Chris Hughton. Swansea and Manchester City. What's so weird about those two performances, Ben? What is it?
The Man City game, like the West Brom game before it, featured a team who were, so on the beach that they were selling donkey rides. The Swansea game was a complete anomaly. It was brilliant. It was entertaining. There were lots of goals. Grant Holt looked interested. It was a fascinating game of football for people who have otherwise watched the last season a bit of Norwich. How it came about, I'll never know. Hopefully somebody at the club knows a bit more about it than I do.
Well, that is why they're paid to come up with these things. I do just want to bring up the away following, because they've taken 2,500-3,000 to these away games, probably travelling in a bit more hope than expectation, and almost 2,000 again at Watford midweek cup game, where they were rewarded, but arguably that was a tough game. That reward
was a long time coming, wasn't
quite.
it? But fair play to the thousands, 2,000 people that go, and they'll give a great account of themselves at Stoke, obviously, and I hope they see a goal. Is the only thing I'd say.
Yes.
But I'm sure would you take a point? You'd take a point now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 1-1 rather than 0-0. Maybe we'll come to the predictions later on. Okay, this is the time at Pundits Predict where we like to ask our guests for their starting 11s for the game coming up. Ben, we'll look at yours first. Take us through some of these wily characters you picked.
Okay, I think the defence kind of decides itself. Garrido's not been playing very well with Basong out. I think Martin at centre-back probably ahead of Michael Turner, who, bless him, is looking more and more like Gary Doherty every day.
Not physically, but...
Well, no.
Carry on.
Still the flailing arms. I'm putting Pilks on the right. Bless him. I do actually quite like Robert Snodgrass, honestly, but I think he could do with a game out after what happened at the weekend. There's going to be a few people gunning for him, I fear. Keep Redmond in to stop everybody booing, and Johnny Howson. Normally, I'm a big fan of Wes, actually, and I think he links the team up, and I think we miss him when he's not there. But I think he's looked average this season so far. I want Howson to come in, but play an attacking midfield role, because we bought an attacking midfielder in Johnny Howson, and he's looked quite good at that. His goals at the end of last season, I think, showed that. What he's really not good at is sitting at the back of the midfield with the other midfielder defending against the defenders. And so I'm putting him in as one of the worst Norwich City players around at the moment, because I think he's not that when he plays going forward. I think the two strikers kind of right themselves. Gary Hooper had a great little cameo midweek. And Ricky cost £8.5 million, so you've got to play him.
That's true. It'd be lovely to think that those two could hit it off, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right then. Well, as if by magic, Mr. Rob Setchell, Villa fan. Let's have a look at your Norwich 11. Yeah, what we got here?
Hideously attacking, isn't it?
I love it.
Hideously
It's those
attacking.
Lambert tendencies
Yeah,
filtering through.
Well, I think the back four is the same, except Turner for Bennett and stuck with Garrido. But I could be persuaded on putting Olsen in there. Not fully convinced on Olsen, but I think that pretty much writes itself. Either of those I'd be happy with. Tetty and Fur. I'd like to see Leroy being given a bit more licence rather than just, because I think he's, as you said, he was fantastic in midweek. I think he's more than just a break it up, sit in front of your back four midfielder, isn't he? He can pass a ball. He can probably go from box to box. I think So I think if you put Tetty alongside him, you just give him a little bit more, room to manoeuvre and get forward. I stuck with our mate Rob Snodgrass, just because I think he is a good player and good. All players lose their form in whatever sport, but I think. Just because he's made himself a little bit unpopular by not taking a penalty and had a bit of a shocking start to the season, that doesn't mean to say he won't come right. But yeah, I take your point that maybe he could sit out a game and maybe that'd give him a bit of a kick. But I'm not sure. I think I'd stick with him. Redmond I'd obviously stick with, and then I'd like to see Hooper and Van Wolfswinkel play together, because I think there's goals in them.
I was going to say, do you think Hooper and Ricky can do it at this level?
Yeah, I think they can. Well, Gary Hooper is a goal scorer, isn't he? That's what he's done through leagues. That's what he says. And I think he could play as a number 10. He's not, especially at Stoke. You need, Van Wolfswinkel up front by himself at Stoke is not going to get a lot of change out of Shawcross and Huth, is he? It's not an easy job for anyone. So I think he could use a bit of assistance. I think Gary Hooper had. Given his form in midweek especially, I think it'd be really good to see him in there.
Brilliant stuff. Right, we've got 2 remaining questions. I need a key man in terms of the game. It can be either side, Norwich or Stoke. The man who's going to be key to it, Ben.
I think Leroy Fer again. I think he's been our best player so far this season. He doesn't lose the ball much. He wins it back a lot. He is able to spread things about, and I think that he's the person that is going to drive us forward if we ever get round to driving forward.
Brilliant. Rob, you?
I'd agree with that, and I'd also say that if Hooper starts, which I think he probably will, I think he'll be key, because Stoke, I think you'll have enough in midfield to compete with Stoke. Whether you get any joy out of that back four, which is obviously solid, and obviously that's where their strength lies, I think will lie with Gary Hooper.
We shall see then. That will be interesting. Predictions, Ben?
2-0 Stoke.
Oh wow, that's rounding off the week. Rob?
I'm sorry to the travellers. It's 0-0, isn't it? It's 0-0 on the coupon already for me.
I think at least the expectations are where you kind of would take it. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this week. It's much appreciated. Thank you all for watching. I will be at the Britannia Stadium desperately hoping for a goal. Live coverage at pinken.com, so keep an eye out for that. And also I'll have my video report on mustardtv.co.uk, and that will be shortly after the full-time whistle. 3 up front, 3-word verdicts, get those in after the game. We'll be back with that next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week and hopefully the weekend. Bye for now.